In episode number 4, I showed you how to create the curved front here on this curved drawer gallery. In this episode, I'm going to walk you through how to create the joinery on the drawer fronts and how to build out the drawer components so we've got fully functional drawers in this tool cabinet.
Our videos show you how to add value and character to your home.
This is the centerpiece of the room, so it really needs to visually work.
Learn how to get quality results that you'll be proud of. Welcome to Home Improvement Woodworking.
The curved front of this cabinet required me to cut these drawer fronts out of a solid piece of wood. Here, the next step you'd think normally would be to cut the inside here to get that curve, but if I do that, I'm causing a problem. What I need to do is make sure that I've got a rabbeted here that will run parallel to over here, and because I've got a square reference here, I need to use that square reference to do that. So the step is, first of all, to cut the joinery here, cut in the rabbet, and then the second step is to cut the back of that and then shape it. So I'm going to walk you through how to create these cuts here, and then from that we'll cut out the drawer and get it shaped, and then we can start putting the drawer together. So to mark out the joinery, first of all I'm just going to mark the front face using my marking gauge. So this is just scoring a line down the front of the drawer to tell me where the thickness of the drawer is. So I put that on the top. I also go through here, do it on the bottom, and that gives me a reference line so I know exactly where the front face is. Now what I can do is mark a 1/4 inch in from the front here. That'll leave me a 1/2 inch at the back to be able to have enough of a rabbet here to attach. I've got a 1/2 inch between here and the outside of the blade, so now I just have to raise the blade enough to let in the 1/2 inch sides I'm going to be adding on. Next I set the height of the blade so that it's the same depth as that cut, and adjust the fence to take out the rest. So now you can see here where I've got a rabbet here, and that accepts the drawer stock. So nice tight fit there and there. So the last step here is to cut off this section here, so I've got a 3/4 inch piece at the front. Now if I were just to stand this up on the bandsaw, it might be unstable. So what I do is I keep the scraps, the cutoffs, and what I'm going to do is tape this on here so it gives me a larger footprint, a larger reference surface, to try and get that cut as parallel as possible to the front face. So here's that cut line, right where I wanted it, but on the bottom side, near the end of the cut, it sort of wavered a bit. So I'm going to have to take that down with a belt sander, and a little bit at the start as well. And then you can see there's sort of a rough texture from the bandsaw. I also need the belt sander to take that out. A stationary belt sander is the best tool for this. Working on that inside curve will get you through this material relatively quick. I picked up this machine for only $60 this summer. It was used, and it's a Delta, so a good quality name. I recommend getting one if you don't have one yet. Here are the saw marks, and this is where I've sanded. So it smooths it out pretty well. I do need to go over it with an orbital sander just to take out some of the ridges, and we'll be good to go. With this front drawer ready, it's now caught up with the rest. I'll show you how I build the drawers. Now, a challenge with these drawers is that the sides are different lengths. This depth here is different than the depth here. The only one that has sides that are exactly the same is this middle drawer right here. So it's a little more challenging. You need to work from the back in terms of making sure things are square and getting them lined up right. So with these side pieces cut, I can now stand them in place here and here, and I need to line them up in the back to figure out how long the back is going to be. So what I'll do is put a clamp on here just to provide some pressure so these pieces don't fall apart on me. And then what I need to do is make sure that the back is square. So that's square there. Okay, that one's square. I'll just double check this. Yep. So now what I can do is measure the distance here. So I'm at 8 3/4. Just check it up here. That's the same distance. So you can see now that it's put together just how much of a curve there is to that front. This is a square joint here, this is a square joint here, and that's the curve inside the drawer. So what I've got now is my measurement here, and the way I'm going to attach this back is insert it into the sides like a traditional drawer and notch it in here. So I need to put a small dado here and here, and then mill this so that it'll fit inside there. And what that'll do is provide a locking joint so that any pressure push this way, the same as a traditional drawer, doesn't bring the drawer apart. Here's the joint cut. You can see how it comes together now. So the last thing is I need to put a bottom in, and some people just tack them on the bottom. I prefer to dado them in. So I'm going to run a groove all the way around the inside and then cut a bottom and put it together. Now, just so I don't mess this up, what I want to do is put a mark on the bottom of each of these on the inside, because this is where I want to put the dado. After all this work, I wouldn't want to get these wrong on one side and then have to redo all this work. Especially these drawer fronts. These drawer fronts are a continuous grain across the cabinet, and I don't want to mess one up. So I've cut the bottom to go in the dado. I've just got some leftover oak that I'm going to use, but I'm going to line the bottom of these anyway, so I'm not concerned about the wood species. So I just need to line it up in the dado, and then put the sides on. This is a really snug fit. Once glue gets on there, it'll help lubricate it a bit. But yeah, that's tight. Okay. So the last thing I have to do is cut the curve on this front. And to do that, I'm just going to insert the front here. Line it up. And then just back it off about 1/8 of an inch on each side, and then draw the line for cutting. So here what I'm going to do is glue the bottom in at the back first. And if you haven't seen me glue things on my repair channel, you'll see that I use an artist brush to spread the glue. This is really the most effective way to be able to spread glue. And what I'm doing is putting the glue on the bottom of this groove here. I don't want to put any glue on the top half because I don't want any squeeze out. That will play with the finish. So the bottom goes in first. Like that. Okay, that'll tighten up when it clamps. So the next part here is again gluing in that dado for the bottom. And then for the back. And when I glue things, I glue on both sides of the joint. That way you've got maximum glue coverage and you make the most of that joint. And I'm avoiding the inside here again. I'm trying not to get glue on the inside of that joint. And I've got lots of gluing surface here, so I'm not that concerned about enough glue. It's starting to come together now. I'm going to use clamps to get it the rest of the way. So the first clamp here is going to push it the face this way. So this is what's going to get me a tight joint on the edge right here and here. And then clamp it this way. And you'll see this will close up the joint. And then I'll do the same thing on the bottom, and then I'll just make sure that that base is all nice and snug. While the glue on the drawer was drying, I set up the drawer gallery here inside the cabinet to give you an idea of what this is going to look like. Let's take the clamps off and see how this fits. So put the drawer in the opening, and I've got some binding that's happening here at the front. Now, part of the reason that I built the drawer gallery and the drawers before I put the cabinet together is because I want access here to be able to push these out in case while I'm fitting them I get stuck. So I'll show you what the problem is here right at the front. So back here the drawer fits, up here it doesn't, and you can see I've got a proud edge right here in the rabbet. So I need to plane that down, and I'd rather have this sticking out too much than being recessed, because I've already fit the front of these drawer fronts, so that way I can plane this down and get it exactly where I need it. It's time to pull out the hand planes, and this one is very special to me. It's a number 3, and I inherited it from my great-grandfather. It's something I've tuned up and really enjoy using. Now here's another reason I keep the cutoffs from these curved faces. Clamping this in the vise would be impossible without having this square edge to be able to get a nice tight fit and clamp that in place. One thing I love about hand tools is the feedback you get. Rather than a bunch of dust, you get some nice shavings. So we'll check out the fit now. And it's good side to side, but there's still some binding. So that means I need to trim down a little bit of these joints here just to get a nice free-flowing movement. These joints are just a little bit misaligned here, so it's a little proud at the back. So I'll trim those down. Nice thin shavings, full width. Okay, that's good. For the sake of the camera, I'll do this backwards. Okay, I'll give that a try. Still a little snug at the front here, so I've got a little more work to do underneath here. There's just a little bit of flushing up I need to do there. But I won't waste your time on that. What I'll do is show you the next step. So I'm planning on putting poles on these, and because these are flush, once I get the back on here, there's no way to access and push them out. So what I'm going to do is drill a small hole, put a screw in, and that's going to act as the temporary pole, so that once I get all this assembled, I can take those drawers in and out. So I just need to draw a hash mark in the middle here, from one corner to the other. And that'll tell me where the center is, that I can drill my hole. I've got some sanding left to do on these drawers just to make them feel nice when I pull them out. But this gives you an idea of how this tool chest is coming together. The next video in this series is building doors for this cabinet. And these doors on either side here will be used for tool storage as well. I'm using a special joint on those called a miter lock. If you haven't subscribed yet, click over here and click on the bell icon. You'll get notified every time we release a video. Until next time, enjoy your time in the workshop.